Hey, what's happening? This is Uncle J here. I can be talking to you about anything in the world, but today I'm going to be doing a recap video on the Melvin versus Guillard UFC event, and then I'm going to be giving my prediction on the Rashad Evans versus Phil Davis card. Okay, first I'm going to do my recap on the Miller versus Guillard cards. First fight I'm going to talk about is Pat Barry versus Moorcraft. This was a really good fight. I mean, Pat Barry really surprised me. I mean, he's known as someone with zero ground game. Actually, his ground game is, he's known to be quite rubbish, to be quite frank. But today, oh my god, he impressed me. I mean, Moorcraft took him to the floor, tried to get him in a reverse guillotine choke, reverse rear naked choke, and Pat Barry reversed it, did a really advanced counter for an armbar. I was like, oh my god, Pat, look at you, all doing jiu-jitsu and everything. But then he ended the fight as we know Pat Barry normally ends fight, which was with a nice, solid knockout. So, having seen his newfound ground skills, I have to say, Pat Barry is potentially a contender in the heavyweight division. I mean, he can be probably because his stand-up game is quite good. Actually, a fight I would like to see after the Dos Santos saga and everything, I would actually like to see Overeem fight Pat Barry, only because Overeem cussed Pat Barry that his stand-up isn't on his level. Not that it was a cuss, but it's kind of a cuss. So that was a really good fight. It surprised me. I wasn't really interested because I thought I knew Pat Barry would knock him out, but I didn't think Moorcraft would try to take Pat down to the ground like he did, and I didn't think Pat Barry would counter his submissions the way he did. So I'm quite impressed with Pat Barry because I actually like Pat Barry as a person. I just wasn't feeling him as a fighter, but now that he has ground skills, I'm going to be looking out for him. Now to the main event. Melvin Guillard versus Jim Miller. That's right, Jim Miller. I've been saying, only God knows what other Miller I've been saying before, but it was Jim Miller. This was a really good fight. I mean, Melvin Guillard took it to Jim Miller the way he normally does. And Jim Miller was having problems until he kind of just got, Melvin to the ground and just submitted him. I mean, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And Melvin isn't exactly known as the ground game artist. So once he hit the ground, it was really game over. Melvin, he's shown in his last two fights that he's quite vulnerable to the submission game. And in the lightweight division, if you don't have a solid submission game, or at least a solid counter submission / counter wrestling game, you can't really beat the top 5 really. In terms of Jim Miller, he won the fight, but he still looked like the Jim Miller that got spanked by Ben Henderson, which says to me that we can't really beat Maynard, Henderson or Edgar really on a good day. But at the same time, it's too premature for me to say because he can still come back. Maybe he's just finding his feet. A loss can affect your mental game a bit, so maybe he's still coming back from that. But from this performance, even though he won, he still looked like the Jim Miller that got his bum handed to him by Ben Henderson. Now I'm going to be doing a prediction video for the Rashad Evans versus Phil Davis fight. First fight on the card, which for me is the main event. This for me is the main event. And this is Chael Sonnen versus Michael the Count Bisping. So I'm an English guy, you know what I mean? So I should be rooting for Michael Bisping. But I have to keep it real. I just think Chael Sonnen is going to spank the hell out of Michael Bisping. I just think his overall game is too much for Bisping. I think he can stand with Bisping and throw a lot more power shots. And I think his wrestling is just light years ahead of Michael Bisping. I think we're going to see a repeat of what he did to, what's that American hero called? Can't remember. Brian Stan, yeah. I think we're going to see a repeat. I think what Chael Sonnen did to Brian Stan, I think that's exactly what he's going to do to Michael Bisping and what he does to most of his opponents really. He's just going to take him to the ground, smother him and just basically rape him. So yeah, I see Chael Sonnen winning that by submission or TKO. Now for the main event on that card, which is Rashad Evans versus Phil Davis. This is a very, very interesting matchup. I actually forgot that this fight was happening on the 29th of January. When I actually got reminded, I was quite excited. This is a really good matchup. You know, you have Rashad Evans, who has a good wrestling pedigree, has really, really good, not good stand-up, like alright stand-up. He has good boxing, very fast. Then you have Phil Davis, very good wrestling, but his wrestling is offensive, very offensive. Because of that, he actually takes his jiu-jitsu to a nice advanced level as well. His striking is a bit, but it's not quite there, but it's dangerous, if you know what I mean. He's not like an Anderson Silva that, you know, or not even Anderson Silva, he's not like even a Michael Bisping that we just spoke about, like, you know, he knows what he's doing and he's, you know, pot shots in and all that kind of stuff. But he's quite dangerous because he's such a physical guy that if he hits you, you're gonna know about it. Woo! This is a toss-up, but I'm gonna have to go with Rashad Evans. I just think Rashad Evans' combination of wrestling and boxing will give Phil Davis a lot of problems. I think Rashad's wrestling will, if anything, nullify Phil Davis' wrestling. I don't think Rashad Evans can overwhelm Phil Davis with his wrestling, but I do think his wrestling can nullify Phil Davis' wrestling. So I see Rashad Evans winning via TKO actually, and I see him doing this in the second round. No, actually, it's second round. I see him doing it in the second round, yeah. As usual, I'm going to give a scripture, and the scripture for this video is going to be from Psalm 16 verse 8 to 9, and this scripture just talks about the fact that when you have God in your life, He just brings about a form of joy and happiness that is indescribable. So when you really embrace God and you walk with Him, He brings a joy and happiness into your life that is indescribable. Don't get me wrong, you have challenges and all that, but there will also be that element of indescribable joy and happiness. And obviously that's going to be amplified when you actually, you know, cross over. Okay, that's it. As usual, leave your comments, subscribe, click on the link below that takes you to the latest Bible study with Uncle Jay, which, if you enjoyed the scripture, is a weekly Christian online show that I do. So check out the link below, takes you to the latest episode. Usually what I do is I do a playlist. I put a link to the playlist and then the latest episode on there, but for some reason YouTube is having problems, so all I could do was just put a link to the latest episode. But if you want to see the playlist, just go on the channel, which is Joseph's Beautification, and then you can see the playlist to all the other Bible studies with Uncle Jay that I've done. Alright, that's about it. Take care, God bless, live long and prosper.